So I'm going to have to go from this to learning how to get myself through this. So this week I want to talk about my massive change from predominantly working out in CrossFit to going to a more zone 2 based thing in preparation for taking on an Ironman. Now it's not so easy to go from being effectively in zone 4 and zone 5 heart rates all the time on and off in a HIIT kind of workout, particularly with CrossFit where you ramp up for 2 to 20 minutes and then come back down again, and then maybe you have big gaps of lifting where your heart rate is significantly lower. Going to train for the Ironman has been a consistent amount of zone 2 work. There's a few things that I've done that I want to share that hopefully may help you if you think, right, I want to start doing some zone 2 work. But we're going to look at what are heart rate zones, like what is the way that you can maybe measure them, and then also why am I talking about flipping to zone 2 for when we're looking at the Ironman. Well, first of all, zones of heart rates are effectively all 1 rep max. So for me, I know that the top end that my Whoop or my Garmin watch has ever recorded is around 201 beats per minute. So that means that that's almost my 1 rep max in terms of heart rate beats over 1 minute. And that's really high, considering my resting heart rate is around about 45. So that means my heart is beating 5 times as fast. So that's my zone 5. Enough, 5 times as fast, almost is my zone 5. That's me, can't breathe, absolutely puffing on the floor, everybody's gonna run out of the way and I'm dying, okay? That's quite a lot of competitive CrossFit. You're aiming to push into that zone 5 and stay in that zone 5 for as long as you can. However, you cannot be for 12 to 15 hours, which is probably what the Ironman's gonna take me, in a zone 5. My body will break down, it's just not gonna happen. So what I've had to learn is being at a lower heart rate. So not my resting heart rate, which my zone 2 sits somewhere around 135 to 140. And that's something that I've been able to look at by doing runs, by doing different workouts, by rowing, biking, all this different kind of stuff. And looking at my Whoop and my Garmin, it gives me that data of how I'm gonna change. So being in a zone 2 is the goal heart rate for that 12 to 15 hours. It's something that I need to be able to sustain. Also being in zone 2, it's almost what everybody calls the recovery zone. So regardless of your training, regardless of what you're doing, zone 2 is not really going to hit you hard. In fact, what it is going to do is encourage blood to go around the body, muscles, stimulus to recover, and it's going to hopefully at the end of the day make you fitter, make you able to recover back to your base heart rate. So the flip for me is not so much zone 4 and zone 5 anymore, it's that zone 2. I found it incredibly difficult, especially with running, swimming and bike. That's something I usually put a lot of power and effort into, so it's been very difficult to tone that down. When I started running to stay in a zone 2 for an hour, there was points I had to walk to keep my heart rate into that point. A couple of tips I've learned along the way to stay in that zone 2. One of those tips is the music that I listen to and how I listen to it. So sometimes I'll try and not listen to music when I'm doing workouts or when I'm doing those training sessions, because the Ironman you're not allowed music. However, if I am running for a long time or on the bike and I've switched, I try and listen to podcasts or very slow music. It kind of mirrors into my heart, it takes my mind into a different place, and it means that I don't have to work super hard to go along with the beat of the music, and sometimes music will make you go faster almost accidentally. So podcasts have a speaking cadence, and that's a lot better to keep me in a zone 2. And also podcasts seem to make time go a little bit better as well. So thinking about the music that you listen to, slowing down the beats, and you can even go on Spotify and search for songs that have a certain beat per minute. You want to match that with your heart rate. So if you want a 120 to 130 beat per minute heart rate, search Spotify 120 to 130 beat per minute songs, and it has a list for you and it's going to do them. Second tip around this is also how you eat. So zone 2 has been super crazy for me because I don't ever feel like I'm training that hard, because I'm not on the floor sweating, rolling around in pain like I am with CrossFit workouts, so I don't feel like I have to fuel. But actually my data in Whoop has gone crazy. So I actually now burn on average about 4,500 calories to 5,000 calories a day. Some big training session days I've had have been up to 8,500 calories burned. And there's been no zone 5. It's been hours and hours of zone 2. So the swim, the run and the bike. This means that the way I consume my carbohydrates has to be different. So instead of having big meals where I have like high sugars just before I'm going to do a crazy CrossFit workout, I need carbs that are going to release constantly. The next thing also is sweat. So I have done a workout today. It was about a 4-hour, 40-minute workout, and I lost 4.6 milliliters, so it's 4.6 liters, so 4,600 milliliters, so 4.6 liters of sweat. It's a huge amount. crazy amount, and I can't drink that much, but I need to be able to aim to maintain as much of that so I'm not losing too much. So my brain will stop working, I'll collapse on the floor, all that rubbish. And then going along with the sweat loss is salts. So the amount of sweat that's going through there, the salt recovery that's needed is super high. So not only we're looking at carbs, not only we're looking at fluid intake, we're also looking at salt as a primary thing to not ignore. And in terms of this bigger kind of long range cardio training, salts are no longer a bad thing, and fat day are going to be your friend. So there's a couple of tips there. Hopefully some of that makes sense. I'll fire in a few of the data sets from Whoop, and you'll be able to see what I burn, how I burn. You'll kind of show some of the things in terms of fluid and stuff like that. But those are my learnings so far coming from that CrossFit Zone 4, Zone 5, is that one, I'm going to look at my nutrition. Number two, I'm going to look at my fluid and salt intake. And number three, I need to look at how I motivate with music or sound across those workouts, because that is the big changer. Listening to podcasts was a massive flip, but now I can hold my zone 2 much better.